Hello and welcome to the Baby Loss podcast with me, Gabriella Austin. This podcast is for parents like myself to share their story around baby loss and miscarriage. I will be sharing my own story of miscarriage and the birth and loss of my daughter Isabella Eden. Today I am joined by my friend Sadie, who shares her story of miscarriage and the loss of her son Alexander. Many of my new friends I met through a charity called SANS, which is the stillbirth and neonatal death charity. Baby loss is unfortunately more common than people think and certainly more common than discussed. Whilst I would like to raise awareness around this taboo subject, my main aim is to provide parents with a safe place to talk about their babies, wherever they may be in their journey. 2020 was a year like no other. Loneliness set in for many, bringing back feelings and memories of loss. There is no judgment here and every journey is different. Welcome to 2021, where we tell the stories of our babies gone too soon. Trigger warning for this episode: discussion on baby loss, miscarriage, and contains explicit content. You just take it away.
So telling Alexander's story, his story, is hard to do without piggybacking it onto other aspects of my life and other things that we've been through. Backstory, me and my husband, we got married in 2009, and we had a shotgun wedding because I was pregnant, and 2 weeks after that we had a miscarriage, and then we had another miscarriage, and then we had another miscarriage, and then we had testing done, and it was when we were pregnant for a fourth time that we got the diagnosis of balanced translocation, which is a genetic disorder, which basically means that my husband has got all the right material, but two bits of it have swapped places and are in the wrong place. So he has everything, it's just two bits have swapped places. And that means that when we were trying to conceive our children, that one of the ones which is in the wrong place was being moved over, and the other one that replicates it wasn't being sent over, and so we were having this unbalance of genetic material. And then a couple of weeks after finding out about that, on our fourth pregnancy, we lost that baby too. So we had quite a lot of loss and quite a lot of sadness. And I desperately wanted to know why I was just not able to carry these babies and why I felt like my body was failing these babies. We got an answer, but unfortunately that answer wasn't a good one. So then after that pregnancy, we got pregnant again a few months later, and we went for all of our scans and everything was normal. And at 32 weeks pregnant, they said, oh, there's an abnormality here, and there's an abnormality here, and there's an abnormality here. We think that you should go for an amniocentesis, which we had, and it showed that our baby had a condition called Jacobson syndrome and Edwards syndrome. Edwards syndrome is the having more of trisomy of chromosome 18, and Jacobson syndrome is having less of chromosome 11. Those are the two genetic materials that have swapped in my husband. And so we were offered all the options, and we decided to carry on this pregnancy. And my son Nathan was born in 2011, but with severe disabilities and complications and heart problems and all sorts. And so we were told that this is incredibly rare, that you should have a child with this condition. We went for genetic counselling and we went to obstetricians and we spoke to a lot of different people about our options. And they said, if you want to have a normal baby, you're just going to have to keep going and you're just going to have to keep suffering these miscarriages. But the likelihood of you having another child like Nathan is just incredibly rare. So that's what we did. 2 years after Nathan was born, we found out we were pregnant again. And a year and a half after Nathan was born, we found out we were pregnant again. And we decided to go for a CVS test at 12 weeks instead of waiting for, when we were pregnant with Nathan, we waited until 32 weeks to get tested. But we went for genetic testing very early on in our pregnancy, and we found out that we were having a boy and that our boy had Edwards syndrome and Jacobson syndrome, the same as his brother. And so we were given all of our options again, and we decided, like we did with Nathan, that we would continue the pregnancy. Actually, in his scans, he was growing better than Nathan ever did. All of his measurements were better than Nathan ever had. The only severe abnormalities that they saw was it's a lot of different names for it, but it's omphacele or something like that, which is when some of the intestines have gone into the umbilical cord sac, and quite usually what they do is when the baby's born, they kind of lift it up, they squeeze it in, they tie a knot, and Bob's your uncle.
I've heard of that before. Yeah.
So that was, and another thing was that his heart was on its side. So it looked formed normally, but for some reason it had tilted to one side. And that was just something that they wanted to keep an eye on. So I had regular scans up at St George's and at Crawley Hospital and at East Surrey Hospital, and everything was hunky-dory and fine. And then one day when I was 23 weeks pregnant with Alexander, I felt different. And I felt like my placenta was at the front, so I didn't really feel him move at all. And so although my belly moved, I didn't feel it. It was very odd. But one day I was just like, something feels off. And I said to Stu, it was on a Sunday, and it was actually the day of Nathan's birthday party, his second birthday party. And I said to Stu, something's up, something's not right with the baby. And he was like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I think something's up. But it was Nathan's birthday party that day. The next day was Nathan's birthday. So I wanted to kind of leave it until like it wasn't a special occasion. Sounds really bad. But on Nathan's birthday, I turned around to Stu and I said, I think he's gone. I just have this sinking feeling in my stomach that he's left me. And I messaged Abby, who is my midwife.
Yeah, Abby the midwife.
Abby the midwife, who a lot of us know and absolutely adore. And I messaged her and she was like, I want to get you scanned. And I was like, oh, it's Nathan's birthday. And she's like, no, I want to get you scanned. So on Nathan's birthday, that evening, we went up to East Surrey Hospital. It was late at night. It was pitch black. There was barely anyone there. And we went into a side room. We did a scan. And she was like, yeah, we're really sorry. But they wanted to get that the machine that they used wasn't like the top machine. So they wanted to double check. They wanted to take me into a proper ultrasound room rather than being in the ward. And they said, we're really, really sorry. And I remember crying a bit, but I remember really like, nope, I knew this in my heart. And I told myself, because I almost felt him leave me. And so, yeah, I had a bit of a cry, went home, and my mum was looking after Nathan and Joey. So I've got an older son from a previous relationship. My mum was looking after them, and I came home and I just broke down and told her and let it all out. And then we had to make arrangements to have the baby that was still sitting in my tummy delivered. Now, this was actually Nathan's birthday, and I wanted it as far away from Nathan's birthday as I could safely get away with. I didn't want them associated in my head, which they forever will be, of course, because we found out that he'd gone
day
on Nathan's birthday. But I wanted it. So his birthday was on the Monday, and we decided that we were going to deliver on the Friday. So we made arrangements, which was quite strange, really. So we had time to contact Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, who are a photography charity who will come and take photographs of your baby when they're born. My mum contacted someone who made miniature baby grows, and she had 2 made so that our son could be put in one and we could have one to hold, so we know what he's with. You know what I mean?
Remember what he's wearing.
And my best friend made Nathan a blanket when he was born, and I really wanted Alexander to have the same, so she also made 2 identical blankets as well. And so it was good in a kind of way that we were able to make all these plans and arrangements for his birth. However, I remember walking through town, and someone who actually she's a counsellor from church, and she kind of knows our history and our story, and I've spoken to her quite a lot in the past about, you know, the things that I've experienced. And she was like, oh, how are you? How's pregnancy going? How's everything? And we're like, oh, unfortunately our son's passed away. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, when was that? I was like, well, technically he's still
here
in my tummy. And she was like, you could see she was mortified and just didn't know what to say. Like, what a weird situation to be in. And that really sticks with me, the memory of like just this woman who I've always gone to for counsel and always gone to for comfort and support, being absolutely speechless,
just gobsmacked, like, you still have the baby inside you. Oh gosh.
So around lunchtime on the 29th of November we headed to East Surrey Hospital, and we were taken into the SANS room, where I was induced in the SANS room into labour. And with Nathan, I had a emergency C-section. So I was having an induction, but I was also having a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after C-section, which can go brilliantly for some people and they can go not so well for others. And actually I was quite lucky, but I was very nervous about having a VBAC. But they did say that because of the size of my bump, and I was only 23 weeks, that it would actually be so invasive to do a C-section that it might, hinder our chances of having children in the future.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, you twisted my arm there.
Yeah.
You know exactly the right things to say to make me comply. So yeah, we went for the VBAC, and it was hard. It was grueling. It was agonizing, and it was long. I went in there about lunchtime, and he wasn't born until I think just before midnight. And and I almost gave birth to him in the bathroom, mainly because I was so dosed up on morphine that I couldn't move.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely agonizing, emotionally, but physically it was awful. And Abby was there for me the whole time. She looked after me the whole time. She was just, and Stu was fantastic. My husband, he really looked after me, and bearing in mind what he was going through as well as what I was going through, you know, he was an absolute rock. They managed to get me out of the bath because we could feel that it was getting to that point that Alexander was going to be born. And I threw up all over Abby.
She's fine.
Yeah. I'm sure she's had many people. I'm sure she's had almost every single one of my bodily fluids on her.
Yeah. Sounds like it now, definitely.
I bombed on her. I broke my waters on her.
Yeah.
Oh, who knows? Yeah. And he wasn't born that long after I laid on the bed. And that's when my memory kind of gives me this horrible black screen that I wish that I could remember what I saw. I wish I could remember what I felt. I wish I could remember like the details of his face. But I was so heavily dosed up on medication for the pain because it was just rubbish. And I was so nauseous that I can remember all I wanted to do was sleep. And I just wish that I'd just taken that minute to just soak him all up. We had him for a little bit, and I go to church, so my minister very kindly agreed to come and bless him when he was born. And as soon as he was born, my mum wanted to come see him, and so they came. Unfortunately, the "now I lay me down to sleep" woman, because it was like midnight by this point, and she had a nasty cold, bless her. She sent her some serious apologies, but she couldn't come until the morning. So the next thing I kind of clearly-ish remember is the morning after, and like waking up, and as soon as I woke up, I'm like, I want to see him. I want him.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was like.
Like, I've had my sleep. Okay, I'm give him to me. I want my son.
Yes.
And he was so, you know, the next day it's not my Abby turning up with my son, it's whoever's on the next shift. And I wish that I didn't remember this bit so clearly, because when they arrived, he was in a polystyrene box.
Oh, Sadie.
And inside the box was a lovely blanket, but she actually had to untape the box.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Just take your time.
Oh, goodness. So, yeah. But at least when I got him out, she took the box away, and I just had my son.
She fucked
and his
off.
little blanket. And I don't think she realised how just gobsmacked I was,
or just insensitive. That's just how insensitive that is.
I think this is before Sands, because this is like 7 years ago now. The Sands had started getting a really good relationship with East Surrey in the months after I I had Alexander, when I started going to Sands, they were talking a lot about East Surrey and they're building a relationship with them. So they didn't have a Sands bag when I went there. They had a Simba box.
Okay.
And I still have my Simba box. I actually have it here behind me, and I'll show you it in a bit.
Yeah, if you want to, that'd be lovely.
Yeah. No, I was looking for it earlier, and it was just one. So we got him dressed in his baby grow, and I tried to soak him in, but by that time he was, when
looks different.
He looks different, and because he had been inside me for such a long time, he looked like a baby. He looked like a very tiny, cute little baby, but he didn't even look like a 23-weeker. He looked smaller than that even, and he wasn't quite the way that he should have been, and the way that I wish I'd been able to remember him more from the night before. Or if he had been born, back when we found out that we had lost him, maybe it would have been different.
Looked different, yeah.
But that's the way it was, and that's the situation that we were in.
Even with me, if you don't mind me saying, with Isabella, so obviously she was 6 years ago, so obviously not really that long after you. Now I'm attached to my smartphone. Like my iPhone is just, it's literally right here, literally here. I can see it, and my face can open it, right? And if I wish that I had taken more pictures of her when she looked like what she was supposed to look like, because obviously I've shared some photos on this group, but there are pictures that come later on where she just looks like a completely different person, completely different baby. So it is a regret of mine, but you're not thinking.
No.
You just no. If my parents hadn't have been there, I wouldn't have had any photos of her, like with me holding her. Because it's just how it was. Whereas now I take hundreds of selfies a day with my nephew, it's so easy. And so anyway, sorry, I just that's it. I wish I had more photos of her the night before, but a lot happened. She was blessed. My brothers came up the hospital. Obviously my ex-mother-in-law came up the hospital and passed her around. I was still really quite ill myself, in a lot of pain and bleeding, and on morphine as well. And then obviously she was taken off, to be cooled down. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. We know what happened, and what I was saying with Becky before is, I can't believe I'm in a position where I'd say next time, like if this happened again, like, no, I don't want to say that. That's but I do feel like that
have been learned.
I think, shit, no, if this happened again, and obviously I touch wood, I don't know why I do that, because I've been touching wood for like the last 10 years and it still happens. But so I think that's, I kind of get what you're saying.
I think that's what's so brilliant though about raising awareness, is that no, you don't want, you want lessons to be learned, and obviously you don't want to go through a situation again, but passing on that knowledge other people, and not making it a taboo subject, so a person who goes through a loss understands that this is what you should do. Obviously we don't want anyone to go through a loss, but if
it does happen, here's some advice.
I had all that time to prepare myself for what was going to happen when he was born, and I still didn't take enough photos. I didn't take any photos. I didn't take any photos. My husband didn't take any photos. My mum didn't take any photos. No one took any photos other than the Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep woman. And they are wonderful photos, but they are still very private to me, and I've never shared that. I think I've shared them with one person in my entire life, and that's my cousin, who I'm close to like a sister. The only person I've ever shared those photos with. And it's not that I'm not proud of him, but it's not who he was.
Yes.
You know, in my mind, I don't want people to remember him the day after he was born. You know, I want to remember him being the wriggling little baby on the screen when I had my scans, and the tummy movement without feeling it. You know, those are the memories I want to have. When I was listening to your talk, and you said, and then when we finally decided to leave, you know, she went left and I went right. Exactly the same, and that resonated like a freaking symbol with me. That's how it was. They came and they took him back, and we left the hospital without a baby. But
again, though, this is what I'm trying to say, is that it just kept happening to me. Like again, like what the fuck? It's literally a dad walking in the hospital opposite me, holding the empty whatever car seat, with a massive smile on his face. He looks like shit because he's probably been up all night or whatever, but he's still smiling, and they're just passing me, and there's just my ex-husband leaving without the baby, but him coming in to collect it. It's so horrible. It's just so painful.
It's the walking away. And knowing that you're leaving yourself behind. And
that's exactly
the person that's walking out isn't you anymore. But you have to just accept that that's the person, that's the shell you're living in now. So I honestly could not tell you what happened in the days from like walking out of that door to the funeral. Couldn't tell you. Absolutely doesn't exist in my memory. I've looked in every single box and it's not there. I remember. The only thing I do remember is choosing a coffin.
Okay.
That was being in like the funeral directors and just being there going, where am I? What is this? What is going on? Like, how is this real? Because it didn't feel, I felt very out of body, the whole thing. And I think that's why I don't remember it, because I don't even think I was present at the time. And I remember vaguely choosing songs for the funeral. So we had our funeral at my church, and my uncle used to be an undertaker, so he agreed to carry Alexander from the car into the church, and then from the church back to the car, and then when we were at the cemetery, from the car to the grave, and then he would lower, because you know he's trained to do all that. And the funeral directors were more than happy for him to take that role, which I was really grateful for, because I wanted him carried by someone I knew. I didn't want it to be a stranger.
Did you just feel, I'm so sorry if this upsets you.
No, go ahead.
But do you feel that you couldn't carry him?
Oh yeah, no way.
I couldn't carry her.
No.
If I dropped her, I'd never have fucking forgiven myself. Honestly, my mind, no, I'm not dropping her on this mud in front of all these people. I wanted lots of people. Lots of people came. It rained. It was horrible. You know, it was just. When you think of a funeral, that's what was happening at the funeral. It was raining. he was a chaplain, so the chaplain was late, and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, no, I'm not. She's in a white box. I'm not dropping this white box.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Well,
No.
no. For me, I think it was like I could barely stand upright holding my own body, let alone anything else.
Yeah.
I remember, so on the funeral, I remember them turning up, and it wasn't like a funeral car. Because it was a tiny little box.
Yep.
They didn't use like a hearse. It was like a hatchback with him kind of in the back with some flowers, which was kind of sweet, but I felt like I should have had some warning.
Oh, he's here.
Yeah, like, oh, it wasn't even black; it was silver.
Oh gosh, I don't remember the. Oh, see, and then there are things that I can't remember. Yeah.
And then we'll go into the church, and I just remember being like, okay, I'm fine with this. I'm fine. It's absolutely fine, and nothing wrong. Everything's fine. And I remember walking into the funeral behind Alexander, and just my eyes meeting Abby's in the crowd. And oh yeah, I couldn't like hold it together anymore. So I did a lot of silent sobbing.
Yeah, I still do a lot of silent crying, to be fair. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. When I'm editing this later, I'll just be like with my headphones on.
A lot of, so I just basically, I silently cried for the funeral. Funnily enough, my son Joey, who must have been 7 at the time, he was like, before the funeral, he was like, you're not going to bury him without me, are you? You're not going to bury him without me. I'm like, no, of course we won't. If you want to be there, you can be there. So he was like adamant that, he didn't want the baby to be buried without him being there.
Yeah.
And then at the funeral, we had the funeral, and then we're like, oh, we're going to go bury Alexander now at the cemetery. And he was like, do you want to come?
Oh.
So that was absolutely fine. But it was like, he had this fear that we were going to do it without his knowledge. But then he went to the funeral, felt okay with like that he'd been a part of it. But my husband has a son from a previous relationship who's a year older, so he must have been 8. And he did want to come, so he came to the graveside. And if only a few people came to the graveside. We let it open to anyone who came to the funeral that would come to the graveside if they wished to. But only a handful of people came along. And I don't remember. It wasn't raining, I don't think. I think I'd remembered if it was raining, but it was cold. It was December by that time. I think December the 9th we had him buried. And then, it was the walking away. I did it all. I laid the flowers. I laid my son in a grave. Walking away, man, that kills you. And I was like so strong up until that point. That was the point where my legs didn't hold my body anymore. But I was surrounded by the loveliest people who were the people that mattered to me. The people who came to the graveside were the ones that mattered. And they picked me up and they held me for as long as I needed. And then we went back to the church and we had some food, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah. We had food. And it was really nice. The people who came to the funeral, there were some people there that I hadn't seen for a while who came because they wanted to make sure that I knew that they cared.
Yeah. And
we all kind of just sat around and had a chat and had a good old chin wag and an old, mother's meeting, and we just chatted and spoke and laughed a lot, if I remember rightly. Yeah, it was nice.
What I found and in the beginning is that things turned quite normal very quickly. So I'd be devastated, and but then the next thing you know, it's been a couple of minutes and you've cried, and then it's just all back to normal and everything sort of carries on, and I would forget where I was, or forget why I was sad in the first place. It's just really
yeah. Life did. The thing is that we didn't really have time to grieve and get over it. That sounds awful,
I
but
know what you mean.
have time to move on, because Stu had a son from a previous relationship, I had a son from a previous relationship, and we have Nathan, who has a multitude of medical issues. So our life never stopped. We never caught our breath after Alexander. We had, and because Alexander was born a couple of days before he was 24 weeks, I wasn't granted any maternity leave. So I was given a couple of weeks off sick leave, and then I went back to work. And I remember one of the doctors, because I worked at the urgent treatment centre at Crawley Hospital, on the reception, and one of the doctors coming up to me and saying, "So how far along are you now?"
Oh my God, fucking hell.
And I was like, the thing is that she was the loveliest, most gentlest, beautifulest doctor there, and she had no idea. And this is the thing, is that my work seemed to keep it quite hush hush. Bearing in mind that it's a medical environment. Like, my boss turned up to the funeral in her work uniform, and she came, sat for the funeral, and then left as a courtesy, but nothing more. I never got a card saying sorry for your loss. I never got any kind of acknowledgement. 2 weeks after he was born, I think it was, no, 2 weeks, must have been, no, just after Christmas, I think I went back to work. So less like a month after he was born, I was back at work. And yeah, life was to continue as normal. Nathan still had his needs. We still had to keep the kids going. 7 years later, I would tell you, I still haven't been able to catch my breath.
No.
And you just don't. And, you know, in all honesty, I've had a couple of quite serious mental breakdowns. They tend to happen in November.
Yeah, mine is September. I don't talk for the whole of September.
I you know what? I genuinely, and I say this every single November, I should be sedated. It would be medically kinder for my body and the people around me if you just literally put me in a sedation on the 1st of November and bring me out of it on the 1st of December.
Oh, see, I'm already in that sedation.
See, I always take Nathan's birthday, which is the hardest day. Nathan also a couple of years ago got incredibly unwell on his birthday, so it's very it's a hard day for me anyway, and obviously with Alexander and everything. And on that day, I ended up not having a day off work because we had like a work conference, and I thought that'll be a nice distraction. I'll go. And they decided to have a talk all about PTSD and how to see the signs and what to do. And I literally had a full-on mental breakdown in front of the entire directorate. Like, these are top people, and there I was, like, full-on meltdown. And I was taken to another room. They got the mental health nurse to come see me. Oh my goodness, it still absolutely mortifies me to this day. I should have just booked it off sick. I should have not booked off sick. I should have just booked annual leave. I've done it every single year. Why didn't I do it that year? Thought I was past it. I obviously wasn't. Yeah. So the aftermath, that's hard.
I think that not you as in like the raw you, us, we I don't know, maybe we think we can handle something because we want to, because you're just like, no, come on. I'm like, come on, Gab. It's okay. Just get your shit together. You'll be fine. And then get there, and no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be today. I need to just go straight home. Or yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it is
Oh.
what it is. He's not very far from Isabella and Miles.
Mm-hmm.
In
They
Snail
can
Hat.
see each other.
They can. That's one thing. Like, the only time that I allow myself to catch a breath is once a year on his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I that day is the day where nothing else matters but him, and I allow myself that one day to put Nathan to one side, to put Joe to one side, Harrison, everything just goes to one side, and the only thing I think about is him, and that's his special day.
It's his day, yeah.
Because I don't have time to think about him, and that's so much guilt that runs through me, not being able to give him what he deserves, the amount of me that he deserves. But I just don't have it to give. I don't have that time to give. I don't have that part of me to just give it over to him. You know, we all have a capacity, and that's
But are you talking about physically being at the cemetery, or are you just talking about during the day? And
yeah. The massive like guilt that I get when I think, crap, I haven't thought about him for a couple of days. Why didn't I think about him? He's my son. I should be, giving him as much attention as I give my other children. But I can't, and so I give that day to him wholly, 100%.
I should think, literally, because I've been through it and still going through it myself, that you think about him more than you realize. I promise. And that's not just me saying, oh, I'm sure you think of him, and I'm sure you remember him, and you do. There are little things that just remind me of her. And even if I'm on a 14-hour shift at work, I'll look at something, or there'll be a word written or something. It just reminds me. And you probably just do that every day at work, at home. I don't know. Hopefully now when you're on Facebook, you'll remember, because we've been talking about him. Yeah. But you did also have it. This I find comfort in this. When I say this about myself and Isabella, is that I had quite a I think the word is complicated relationship with my bump, because I'd had so many miscarriages before, and I didn't want anyone to touch it or talk to it. It was mine, like, no, don't talk to it. Don't touch it. Don't come near me. But I had those entire 22 weeks with her and nobody else did. And you did have those entire 23 weeks with him and nobody else did. And he listened to your voice every day, and she listened to my voice every day, and she listened to my music every day, and she was in the shower with me every day, always just me and her. And you'll always have that with him as well.
Oh yeah.
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 I have to tell myself that I had that with her a lot. But I don't have any other children, and neither does Rob. So I feel guilty if I've had a day where I sit at home all day and the sun's been out and I should have gone to the cemetery. So everybody, like, just, I think, regardless of situation, just still has those moments where I think, oh shit, I should have gone to the cemetery today. Yeah.
No, I do. I do have like cemetery guilt as well, because his gravesite can be quite. We haven't got a gravestone yet, and we've been meaning to get this. It's been one of those things that we've been meaning to do, and actually, on his birthday just gone, we were like, this is the year. We've got no excuses. We need to get that gravestone. We need to get it, because on his first anniversary, me and Stu went to a pottery painting place, and we made him a plate with his name on it together. And when we went to go for his birthday this year, my 14-year-old son came up to me and went, "Oh, I just thought I'd let you know Alexander's plate's broken." Oh. And I had absolutely no idea that he'd been to visit his brother without us, which was really sweet.
That's very sweet. He's a very sweet boy.
He is a very sweet boy. I love him.
Sweet boy.
But it was a shock that it was broken, and so we went there, and it's shattered beyond repair. It's not the first time that his grave site has been damaged, and we need to do something about it. It's just we've just never got round to it, and that's probably fills me with more guilt than anything. Is that, you know, I really need to give him like somewhere pretty and somewhere safe, and I need to do that. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do it. I know the thing is that I've had one chosen. I've had one chosen for a while. I know exactly which one to get, and it's just getting around to it. And it's money as well, because they are not
cheap
at all. People like to make money, don't they? Yeah. It's just one thing that we just desperately need to do, and we just haven't got around to it yet. And no. I honestly, I think I have a lot of like separation in my head from what happened. It still doesn't feel real to me, what happened to me all those 7 years ago. And I feel like the further I get away from it, actually, the less real it feels, because it feels like I'm so detached emotionally, because I can't let myself go there, because I will not function as a human being. Mm-hmm. If I let myself go there,
if you stay there,
I won't come out again. I know if I open that box, I'm being sucked in, and so I know that there's going to be a time when I'm going to have to deal with it, you know, but it's not now. and I'm just okay with that. I'm gonna have to wait until like my kids are out of school, and it's just the way that it is. But
I think, but also that's why I'm genuinely so grateful that you've chosen to talk to me about Alexander, because
it's been like a therapy session, Gab.
For both of us.
If
you still wanted to share some of the stuff that's in your Simba box, you can, but it's okay if you don't want to.
No, I was going to. Okay, so my Simba box. So this is my Simba box.
Oh, I love the box though. That's so sweet.
So it's got Simba written on it, and I'm not 100% sure what it had in it. One second, I was so in it I've got a couple of my scan photos that I have kept. So we got two little Tigger teddies, one that we put in his coffin, and then this was our one to keep, and then I've put all my like sympathy cards in here as well. And so in a nice little box they've given us like a little candle in a little candle holder, and it's scented, and then a little
does that smell take you back to the sounds room, or does it smell like him?
Actually I was going to mention this and I completely forgot to earlier, because one of the things that someone, I don't even know who said it, but they said smell is the most amazing memory grabber out there, like smells. And so I was recommended to put something on him and make him smell like something, and then every time I smell it, it will bring back that memory. And so the Johnson's baby lotion, just the pink bottle, we took a bottle of that with us and we smothered him in baby lotion, and I've never used it with any of my other children, so it's his smell, and I know it's his smell, And every time I smell it, I'm just taken back to that moment. And that was one thing that I'm really glad that I had, was that smell, that baby lotion, Johnson's baby lotion. And I know that it's such a classic smell that I can go anywhere. And if I need to, I can go into a shop and I can pop open the cap and I can give it a little whiff and I'll get that fix.
But that's you remembering him though. That's you just taking, even if you don't go and smell it, even if you can just see it on the shelf or you see it in somebody else's baby bag, that you're thinking of him and you don't know that you're doing it, even though you do. But you know what I mean. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be drinking you.
So there's like cute little butterfly charms they put in here, and a little star that we were supposed to like put on a Christmas tree or something. That we never did. We just kept them all in the box. And yeah, sympathy cards got one from Sands, and I've got from other people and friends that I just keep in here. I haven't even looked through those in forever. There's so many in there, and I really should have a look through and see all the people who, really cared for us. And then there's a drawer.
Oh, that's such a sweet box.
In the drawer is where I keep the things which are most precious to me. So on my first Mother's Day after he was born, Stu made me a Mother's Day card on Moonpig, just with Happy Mother's Day with love from Alexander. And it was just with lots of love from your angel Alexander. It was just really so simple, but just made my Mother's Day, my crappy Mother's Day. And then
tell me about it.
This is the blanket that it's a taggy blanket with Alexander's name on it that my best friend Heidi made. So it was a replica of one that Nathan had. And then here is his tiny,
oh my gosh,
little tiny baby grow and his little hat. And so he was buried in this. But this is
that's such a good idea. I wish I had to.
I think, but we had so much time to kind of, other people were researching for us, obviously. Like my mum was looking and my cousin was looking. And then in his crib, I think in the coffin, he was laying on, I think, a replica of this, just a fleecy blanket. And then this, I think, is what means the most to me. So this is from East Surrey Hospital. So how much he weighed, his time of birth 23:12, so 11:15. It was really, really late on the 29th of the 11th, 2013. Alexander, head circumference 16 centimeters. He was only 220 grams, 220 grams, and that my midwife was Abby. And then his tiny little handprint and his cop card, and then his tiny little footprints.
Oh my gosh!
And his little band. It's like the most precious thing to me.
Yeah.
So.
I have one of those, and that's what I call her birth certificate. When I talk about her birth certificate, it's that little booklet I'm talking about. Yeah. That's
the closest thing that you get before 24 weeks, and we literally missed it by, if I'd kept him in my womb and decided not to give birth until the Monday rather than the Friday, I would have got a maternity.
I'm so sorry that happened, because
it's crap. That is the way, unfortunately, the system in this country works, and you have to. I respect that there are reasons why, but it sucks when you're in that situation and you don't get that support. And we got referred to Mavis, and I think I met her once, but didn't really. She was off a lot, and I never really managed to get any time with her because I was trying to hold down a job and I was trying to look after Nathan and the other children. So I didn't really get any support there. We got some support from my son's children's hospice that he goes to. So Nathan is under a children's hospice. So we did get a little bit of support from them. And yeah, friends and family. But like, we never really got any actual bereavement support. The most I ever got was from SANS, and that was, you know, it's a completely voluntary service. You know, there was no other like official support given.
There isn't. Yeah, I felt like that. There isn't somebody out there with the job or the job title as somebody to be there for you when you come home without your baby. You have a midwife, obviously, if you come home with your baby, but there isn't even it's not even a fucking handbook. You know, you get okay, this is what will probably happen next, and you have a bit of a chat about what to expect, like, from your body, as to whether they think that your milk will come, and you'll just probably have your bleeding will feel like a period and all this nonsense, and that's it.
Yeah, a little bit of education and eye-opening can change someone's life.
Yeah.
Even if it's just one person who goes through it, just knows that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Then I think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic. This podcast, raising awareness and actually putting it out there, giving people a voice, I think is really incredible. And thank you for letting me speak.
Oh, thank you so much. You don't have to say thank you to me. Just thank you to you. Thank you so much for finding the Baby Loss podcast and listening to my story and remembering Isabella. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast and share your baby story, or if you would like your Baby Loss charity featured, then please get in touch by searching Baby Loss Podcast on Instagram, Facebook and my YouTube channel. If you have been affected by today's episode, then please reach out. SANS can be reached via their website sans.org.uk, spelled SANDS, and of course their Facebook page. If you require immediate help, you can call the Samaritans 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for free on 116 123. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.